Some of the biggest waves in the world draw international surfing champions. The Pipeline Masters, Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN.
Coming up on Speedweek, Rahal wins despite illegal procedure call.
Roughing the passer is allowed here.
And another touchdown for Pickett's charge.
This and more next on Speedweek.
Brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road. And by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution.
Welcome to Speedweek for this, the next to the last week of July. I'm Larry Newber.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. Championship auto racing teams took its IndyCars to the province of Ontario, Canada for their first appearance there since 1978, and first indications are it was a rousing success.
Last Sunday's race, televised live here on ESPN, was one of the most scenic yet, and the track, particularly its surface, got high marks. Held literally in the shadows of downtown, the nearby CN Tower at 1,800 feet is the world's tallest freestanding structure. The race, one of the season's more interesting. Emerson Fittipaldi kind of surprised everybody in the final qualifying session, stealing pole. He'd been highly competitive all week, but just a candidate, and he leads first. It was already an MO Bobby Rahal race when Mike Nish thudded into a tire wall. Mike was pinned in the car with injuries to his lower extremities as the rest of the plot thickened under yellow. Then the leaders pit. Rahal's True Sports crew turns the magic as he thunders out before everyone. He ends up positioned at the end of the queue-up line, essentially a circuit ahead of everybody and leading. Then the kart radios start to buzz. Emo to be penalized for passing the pace car. There remains a big difference of opinion as to when the pace car was passed and to whether or not it was legal. This shows there was no pass after the pit stop. When finally racing again, not only is Fittipaldi blacked in for a stop and go, but Rahal called in for a stop and wait, repositioned under green at the end of the lead lap. After the penalties, it looked like Long Beach again. The kids, Unser Jr. and Michael, squabbling for the lead, darting in and out of traffic. This incident with Johnny Rutherford put the younger Andretti out. This little miscalculation on somebody's behalf, that's Jeff Brabham, made Unser non-competitive. Meanwhile, Fittipaldi and Rahal are storming back. With just 25 to go, Emo's day ends early again, shift 11. But Bobby caught leader Danny Sullivan with 10 laps to go and won. The points are getting tighter. Top 5 within one race win, 20 points. Michael holds on, followed by Danny, Mario, Tom Sneva, and Little Al. Bob, Mike Nish had just changed the brake bias on his machine. He was quite surprised by its performance going into that corner. And by the way, his worst injury is to the talon, which is the bone to which the Achilles tendon connects. But the good news is, in just 6 weeks, there's a chance he might be racing again.
Oh, when it comes to racing, seems that President Reagan has the Midas touch. Dublin, Ohio's Representative John Kasich and Indiana Senator Richard Lugar arranged some time ago for Bobby Rahal to meet the president last Monday. So on the eve of the reception, Bobby goes out and wins the IndyCar race in Toronto. He and his wife, Debbie, presented a team jacket to the president, and he shared with them the experience of being picked up for speeding when he was a sportscaster riding with Barney Oldfield.
The Miami IndyCar race in early November will be sponsored by Nissan. The Dade County Commissioners, meanwhile, have sent back to committee a proposal from promoter Ralph Sanchez to boost the community subsidy of the event. They are reluctant to do so. An announcement concerning the future of Riverside International Raceway is expected soon. The current facility probably will be used for another year, while a new track is prepared with a 1.7-mile oval and a 2.25-mile road course.
Only 11 cars lined up for Race 4 of the American Racing Series, and Brad Murphy was added to the field after Jeff Andretti's team loaned him a nose piece. Andretti in white and Steve Brin in red touch going into the first turn. Then before they cross the line to complete one lap, Andretti is in the tire wall and Brin's suspension is broken. Next lap, Gerald Rice loses his steering and crashes. Tommy Byrne ran second for a while, then he too was into the barriers. Juan Manuel Fangio pitted early with a bent wheel after clipping the wall. Fabrizio Barbosa, who will apparently test at Arciero IndyCar later this year, led all the way and now has the points lead. Mike Groff was 19 seconds behind. Kerry Bren, being lapped here by Barbosa, was third. Those two collided at the Meadowlands, which resulted in a $2,500 fine for Fabrizio. Canadian John Graham was a lap down in fourth, and Sammy Swindell returned to the series with a fifth.
Coming up, the difference between victory and defeat, a delicate balance in Winston Cup.
But there's nothing delicate about this lady's ride in ARCA.
The end of the road is just the beginning when you take it on with these B.F. Goodrich TA radials. The radial all-terrain, the mud terrain, the sport truck TA. Last year they took more major off-road races, more than any other tire. When you take on country where it's a long walk home, make sure you put on tires that can take it. B.F. Goodrich TA radials, built for you to take on the road.
Fuel-injected Dodge Lancers come with optional turbochargers, and you can't expect that kind of power to stay put.
It's the boys' night out, and they're cruising around. The boys' night out, and they're doing the ground. They're revving up, heading out, looking for fun.
5.5 financing or $400 to $1,500 cash on selected Dodge cars in stock.
You know, a lot of cars out there have ride problems. Why? It may be their springs, especially when you load up. They can cause sag or bottoming out. Now there's a solution. Cargo coils by Moog. Different from standard springs. Let me show you why. These closely spaced coils smooth the ride, and cargo coils have these stronger coils to take over when you load up. So when you hit the road, don't hit the road. Get a pair of Moog cargo coils at your mechanic or auto parts store.
He could be America's next middleweight champion. Undefeated Michael Nunn, a product of the Olympic Sports Festival, takes on Charlie Boston live Friday on ESPN. Plus, a junior lightweight showdown between Andy Mincer and Francisco Segura. All live Friday night following the Olympic Festival on ESPN.
The first Winston Cup race this year at Pocono International Raceway was interrupted by rain and plagued with fog. The second, last Sunday, had similar weather conditions. Mark Allen has a report on the Summer 500.
It's a good thing lousy weather shortened the Pocono event to 150 laps. Otherwise, there might not have been any top cars around at the finish. As it was, Bill Elliott's blown engine, the least spectacular of many problems. From the top, a clean affair as the Team Hendrick cars of 25 Tim Richmond and 5 Jeff Bodine kept close watch on each other up front. Sometimes too close. Lap 122 with the leaders racing back to the line under caution. Richmond slid up into his teammate, leaving Richard Petty no room to escape as the 25 car completed several graceful pirouettes. On closer look, Richmond's damage mostly cosmetic, but he went a lap down. The dogfight up front took on a more serious overtone 2 laps after the restart. The lapped car of 47, Morgan Shepherd, tagged leader Darrell Waltrip, then triggered a multi-car massacre that erased 33 Harry Gant, 55 Benny Parsons, and 12 Neil Bonnet, who almost went over on his roof. Bonnet was transported to a hospital. Dale Earnhardt also battered, but continued on the lead lap only to spin moments later and cripple Terry Labonte's hopes. There wasn't much left of Earnhardt's car after spinning into the same wall again a few moments later. His woes allowed Richmond to unlap himself and then battle Bodine over the final wild half lap for the win. While they leaned on each other, Ricky Rudd took the low group in a desperate drag race to the line. At the checkers, a photo finish, Richmond seemingly the winner by inches. His crew thought so, the drivers not so sure. Both sat outside victory lane while NASCAR developed the photos. They confirmed Richmond's third trip into the winner's circle in the past 4 Winston Cup races, in the wildest event since, ironically, Richmond, Virginia in February. This is Mark Allen reporting.
Terry Labonte is this week's inside track candidate to drive for Junior Johnson next year, and this one may have substance. Tommy Riggins will begin campaigning a Pontiac Winston Cup car at Watkins Glen, and Robert Yates, master engine builder for several Winston Cup teams, has signed a 5-year contract to build engines exclusively for the Rainier racing team, effective September 1st.
ASA visited super modified country last weekend, Oswego, New York, and Mark Martin won. Gary Ballou widened his points lead with an all-pro win last weekend in Montgomery, Alabama. It was Gary's 5th win of the year in his Chevy V6.
Few realize that ARCA's history at Pocono dates back to 1969. Bobby Watson won a Memorial Day weekend race back then. But Bob Shack has emerged as their Pocono specialist now. He's won the only other 2 ARCA races here since then. For this special invitational event, they, needless to say, invited him along with 15 others. But Michigan's Bob Keselowski, whose brother Ron, incidentally, won a non-ARCA 500-miler here in '74, leads early, with the Shack man alongside. The Simcoes were prominent today. Brother Dave sat on the pole and later spun through the tunnel turn. And Sister Patty absolutely head-on into the pit wall off 3. One of those terrorist bomb-type wrecks. But on Tuesday, she was back at work in Michigan. Have you ever seen this? That's Grant Adcox. He's just completed a pit stop, and these actions speak much louder than any words. The race came down to Shack, no surprise, and former dirt tracker Bobby Jacks of Dayton, Ohio. Jacks turned history around and won.
In a moment, Transamerica cars are in mid-America.
And West Coast Atlantics are at Westwood. Stay with us.
Do you want to spend 20 years of your life in the same standard mattress? White Knight Sleep Shop in the Marketplace Mall in Walpole offers you another alternative. We have an extensive variety of traditional and contemporary bedroom suites, platform beds, water beds, and accessories. Come in and lay down on one of our 5 different types of motion water beds. Our prices are low because we buy direct from the factory. This month's special is the Pier waterbed, $8.99 complete. White Knight Sleep Shop, 660 Main Street, Walpole, Mass.
Dear Jane, I'm leaving you for MTV. MTV fills a gap in my life. World premieres, sneak preview video exclusives, closet classics, basement tapes, tour and concert updates, the top 20 video countdown, weekend specials, interviews, music news, the New Year's Eve rock and roll ball, the Video Music Awards. Jane, I love MTV. 24 hours a day. Dear Allison.
Arrangements made through Eastern Airlines. This summer, come fly with Eastern and discover why there's no face like home. At Eastern, we earn our wings every day.
Wally Dallenbach Jr. began this Trans Am season as the dominant force, but a few others are beginning to kick up their heels. The Trans Am has evolved into one of the melting pots of racing. First, a variety of ages and driving experience. For Motocraft Capri, young Scott Pruitt, who's been winning in IMSA. Protofab Camaro's Dallenbach, who's now indicated maybe NASCAR's his future. Basketball-sized Chris Neifel from Mercury. The vastly experienced veteran Elliott Forbes Robinson, his V6 Buick. And a young 39-year-old Greg Pickett, who started late this year for Camaro. And the various origins. Early leaders, pole winner Pruitt from go-karts, Pickett identified with Trans Am, and Halsmer from off-road and Indy cars. They were followed by Dallenbach, who emerged from VW Rabbits, racing businessman, club racer Jim Miller, from the South dirt tracks via IMSA, Tommy Riggins. Neifel has raced Indy, Super V's Mike Miller, then EFR, who's done everything from Super V's Can-Am, even Winston Cup, to an old sprint car racer, Jerry Miller. Good old fun-loving, jovial Greg Pickett won this after a pretty good charge. He didn't have a ride last year, but has now won 2 in a row for Protofab. Chevy unseating Ford this year. Peter Halsmer, always in sight, was second, and Riggins was third.
Cosworth Engineering, apparently with the backing of FOCA chief Bernie Ecclestone, has approached the SCCA with the idea of organizing a North American Formula 3000 series. Now, SCCA Vice President Bob Anderson was quoted in Sports Car Magazine as saying the SCCA is very interested.
Since the Can-Am Series will not be under SCCA sanction next year, there is some thought to giving the 3000 Series the Can-Am name. However, Anderson is also quoted as saying the name Can-Am will be retired rather than be associated with that series in its current form, which, quote, lacks all the components of a major professional series. Philippe Alliot will replace Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier car at the German Grand Prix this weekend.
Renault is rumored to be pulling out of Formula One racing. Alfa Romeo will become the engine supplier of the Ligier team next year. BMW has already announced it will withdraw. The Brabham team may be going with Ford engines. Benetton seems to be leaning toward either Renault or Honda. Honda, meanwhile, is said to be interested in buying the Lotus team.
The Formula One race at Laguna Seca may not be as close as thought. The County Parks Department owns the land and is expected to object to the changes that would have to be made. Now, nothing is expected to be formally signed until September, if at all. IMSA is at Portland this weekend. 2 Ford Probes will be there with at least one 4-cylinder engine. So will the BMWs as well as the Nissan GTP car. Rob Dyson has benched Drake Olson, maybe definitely. Dyson will have a new car at Sears Point. Until then, Rob's driver Price Cobb will drive Bob Aiken's 962.
The driver of this number 5 West Coast Atlantic Rolt was one of the stars of the weekend at Westwood Park in British Columbia, but has little to show for it. Tom Phillips led most of Heat 1 until a broken clutch dropped him from contention. In the second heat, he started near the tail of the field, but won. The overall winner was Ted Prappis. He survived this incident Saturday morning during practice, but had a first and second in the heats. Second overall in this 6th round of the W-Car Series was number 11, Roberto Quintanilla. For Prappis, the former Super-Vier, things went fairly smooth.
Everything went pretty good. No real major problems. A little vibration and stuff. I think we lost the wheel weight, but besides that, everything seemed to go pretty good.
Pro Sports 2000s were active on both sides of the Continental Divide this weekend. At Brainerd, Curtis Farley became the 3rd winner in 3 East Coast events. Here at Westwood, a ton of people entered, but the fastest 22 only raced the main. Peter Hulstrup was second in this California-dominated field. Seattle's Lee Shepherdson found this high groove not the quickest, and Scott Atchison, that name's beginning to pop up everywhere, won the race and rewarded his chief mechanic with a free ride.
At Road Atlanta, the Baker Racing Corvette of Kim Baker and the Archers Bobby and Tommy became the first 2-time winner on the SCCA Showroom stock trail. They broke the qualifying record by almost 2 seconds, then fought off an early challenge from the Carlson Porsche of John Millage, Price Cobb, and Drake Olson, but it later developed major mechanical problems. The number 98 Corvette of Don Knowles, John Heinrichsey, and Bob McConnell, which won at Nelson Ledges, finished a lap down in second, but extended its points lead. The Phoenix Racing Scirocco found itself in a dirt bank, but no driver injury. And how about this for a race car, a Volvo station wagon? Well, anyway, the winning car averaged 91 miles an hour despite temperatures well above 100 degrees.
In our next segment, off-roaders are all hung up in the Colliseum.
In Oklahoma, we're talking a pro football punter's hang time here.
Take on the street, you like looking good. But when you take on the road, you're talking performance. That's the BF Goodrich Radio TA. Check it out. Put it on. Move on out. With more performance than ever. Black wall or raised white letters. The speed-rated Radio TA from BF Goodrich. Built for you to take on the road.
When you replace ordinary spark plugs with Bosch Platinum plugs, you may not notice the change immediately. The quicker starts, the smoother acceleration, the extra performance only pure Platinum delivers. So how long will it take you to notice the improvement Bosch Platinum plugs make? About that long. Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
Speed, heat, endurance, the triple test of NASCAR racing. Quaker State Motor Oil is here, performing, protecting, flowing continuously under extreme conditions. And it's the same oil you can buy right off the shelf. Quaker State technology delivers protection in your car and on the track.
Quaker State, the big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
The carb that wanted IMSA. The shocks that wanted Pikes Peak. The heads that wanted Baja. And over 1,000 other high-performance parts are available for your Dodge car or truck at Dodge dealers and Direct Connection Performance Centers. Direct Connection, whether you're going off-road or just down the street. Call toll-free for the dealer nearest you.
The Mickey Thompson Off-Road Series last weekend in the LA Coliseum. Steve Millen went into this event leading points. He also was tied for the points lead in ARS. Torn between which event to attend, the temporary parking of the ARS True Sports car made the decision for him. Is anyone doing so well in two such diverse series? Talk about diversity. Here's the best shot we've seen of this unusual course that races up the Colliseum steps and through the famous Colliseum arches. I wonder if Caesar would approve, but then again, these are nothing more than 20th century charioteers, aren't they? This wide sweeping sprint car-like turn, this isn't Ascot, is it? And this ultra-tight hairpin. And when clogged, all the heavies are caught here. Jeff Huber, Pete Halsmer, whom we have seen, raced in Minnesota the next day, Roger Mears and Ivan Stewart. But around the outside goes Glenn Harris. His bulldozing effort not only upsets a fellow competitor, but race organizers who issued a 6-month probation. Roger Mears' detour resulted in disqualification. But in the end, all take a back seat. Oh, no back seats. Take a pickup bed to off-road vet Sherman Balch in his Nissan. Second win in 6 races.
In IHRA drag racing near Cincinnati, the 3 divisional winners were Bob Glidden in Pro Stock, Mark Oswald in Pro Funny Car, and Fred Mandolini in Alcohol Funny Car. Suzuki's Bob Hurricane Hanna won the 250cc portion of the U.S. Grand Prix of Motocross in New York Sunday. Honda's Johnny O'Meara ran out of fuel on the last lap. The French Motorcycle Grand Prix at Circuit Paul Ricard was won by the USA's Eddie Lawson, who crashed the previous week at Laguna Seca. The win was the 5th Grand Prix triumph of the year, and he is now 13 points ahead of Randy Mamola in the championship battle with 3 races to go.
Bubba Schobert scored a flag-to-flag win Saturday night in the AMA Camel Pro Dirt Track Series event at West Virginia's Motor Speedway. Schobert holds a 25-point lead over Scott Parker. The World of Outlaws traveled through Indiana and Illinois last week. This heat's headliner is Tim G. With the same car and wing, he came back to finish 3rd in this race. Mark Kinzer was all by himself in qualifying when this occurred and showed how easy it is to really mess up. This weekend's 2 winners were Steve Kinzer and Dave Blaney at Santa Fe near Chicago. Blaney, by the way, has become one of the emerging sprint stars of this year.
The United States Auto Club and National Championship Racing Association combined their efforts at Oklahoma City last weekend. A challenge race Saturday night was won by Rick Hood. Then Sunday night, at the start of the feature, John Johnson ran up and over Rich Vogler's wheel, and Johnson takes a horrifying tumble, but is okay. As the red comes out, Shane Carson rams Vogler from the rear, and words are exchanged. Nothing further than words, but Rich was escorted from the track by police after the event because of irate fans who thought Rich was responsible for putting one of their drivers out of the park. 4 different leaders when they get going again: Vogler, number 11X Gary Lee Mayer, and Larry Rice. But Carson emerged from all this victorious.
Now this week's trivia. Dallenbach, Ribs, and EFR combined to win all Trans Am last year except one. Who was that other winner? A. Tom Gloy, B. Chris Neifel, C. Paul Miller, D. Paul Newman, or E. John Jones? I'll have the answer in a moment.
Twisting roads, punishing trails, the open road. Each road demands a different tire to take it on. And with BF Goodrich TA radials, you've got all the different tires you need to take on those roads. The most complete line of high-performance radials in the world. The BF Goodrich TA line, built for you to take on the road.
No matter how Dodge makes it look, winning ain't easy.
Off the road, the land is mean, the ultimate test of man and machine. So we take on the dust, we take on the heat, just trying to prove that Dodge can't be beat. And if winning was easy, why run the race? Can't be number one if you don't set the pace. At Dodge we know there's only one first place. If winning was easy, it wouldn't be a race.
Dodge Truck, we set the pace.
Compact cars that cause big trouble. The National Midget Series premieres from Indianapolis live Thursday night at 10 Eastern on ESPN.
The answer to this week's trivia: Dallenbach Ribs won 11 of 14, Forbes Robinson 2 last year. 84 champ Gloy last won the finale that year. IndyCar grad Chris Neifel has never finished higher than 3rd. Newman's sole career win, 1982. And Jones runs IMSA GTO, not Trans Am. So the answer is C, Paul Miller, whose Porsche many thought would win many more.
On 5 Thursday nights this summer, we'll have live USAC midget races from the Indianapolis Speedrome. Kevin Madden reports on one of the drivers to watch.
Thursday night means USAC regional midget competition at the Speedrome. It's also a good night to check out Rich Vogler. He is without question one of the premier drivers on the circuit, the only driver ever to win the USAC Sprint and Midget national titles in the same year. Rich is the last of a rare breed, a driver who runs everything from midget cars to Indy cars. His dream remains the same, a permanent address on the IndyCar circuit. In only his second start at the Speedway, Vogler ran near the front in this year's 500 before a broken wheel ended his day. He finished 25th.
I qualified, I think I started a 9th row outside, so which was 27th. And I was working my way up real well. I was having fun racing, you know, with people like Foyt and Andretti and people like that, because I don't get to race with them very much.
Vogler's hoping that will soon change. The only obstacle he faces now is money.
It's gotten so expensive that car owners can't afford to do it by themselves, and they require a sponsorship to help, you know, cut the costs for the owner. So I'm still working on that, and when I come up with the right type of sponsor, the right type of deal, we'll get an IndyCar deal going.
From the Speedrome, this is Kevin Madden.
Rich will be joined by about 40 other drivers on those Thursdays at the Speedrome. I'm Larry Nuber.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. Join us next week on Speedweek for reports on the German Grand Prix, which can be seen here on ESPN at 10 o'clock Sunday morning, plus IMSA at Portland and several SCCA races at Road America.
Speedweek has been brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Radials, built for you to take on the road.